Hello everyone, Adam Hurd with 973 Ramp here, and today we're going to be talking about Onshape. So the past couple months, Mike Cressetto and I have been poking through Onshape trying to figure out if we can use it for our teams, and we're pretty sure we can, and we've been pretty happy with it so far. So we're going to talk about some of the things that I really like about it. So the first is, really just the whole concept of it. It's cloud-based, so you log into a browser and use it. You're not tied to a computer. There's no versions to install or manage. There is no 2015 Onshape versus 2018 Onshape, and that is really nice. It used to be, a combination of a fair amount of work and quite a bit of a barrier to entry to maintain multiple different versions of the software and update over the years. And it'd be tough for me personally because I often would have to have 2 different years of SolidWorks installed for business. Then, sometimes it'd even be a third year for educational. Then if I accidentally reviewed and saved the robot with the business saying, oh crap, I have to undo that commit because now the students can't open it and so on and so on. And then there'd be that kind of dead period sometimes where the student's SolidWorks license had expired, but we hadn't quite got the new one. I still love SolidWorks and I'm going to keep using it for business, but for the team, Onshape is super sweet. So yeah, not having to install that stuff saves a lot of time, big headache, really shaves off barrier to entry for the kids. I was surprised personally with how fast it is. So this isn't the biggest assembly here, but it's one right in front of me. So you see it takes a moment to load, not much different than SolidWorks. But once you're in here, you can just rotate and work around in this. And, same with sketches, they're fairly quick. And it's kind of amazing because like this is happening out in the internet somewhere. And it's just so quick. And if you don't believe me, what I recommend you at least do from watching this video is make an account, download the mobile app, and open, you should be able to find 319's robot just by searching 319 in the public section and browse it mobile. And I think you'll be blown away with how well it works on mobile and how much you can do mobile. You can actually model mobile, but even if you don't model mobile, if you just rotate things or view things, take a screenshot, circle, kind of use that as a designer view. I know Mike Cressetto's been doing that with GrabCAD mobile over the years, and that's been really effective for him. So we're both excited to be able to do that, even more so with Onshape. Um, Kind of hand in hand with that is all of the file management is here in the browser, just like Google Drive. There is no PDM or we used to use SVN a while ago, GrabCAD, Dropbox, Google Drive, a flash drive you're passing around. Everything is instantly shared, accessible. You're not worried about as many issues where 2 students are working on the same assembly and they have to coordinate, or they didn't coordinate and they both commit, and now you have to decide, well, you both did good work, but only one of these files can go in, so who has to rework and who has to toss? They can both be in the same part and editing at the same time. Now that doesn't scale super well. Like you can't have 15 people in the same part studio. It gets really cumbersome. But if you have good abstraction, and let's say this was a robot, we'd have the drivetrain be one part studio. We'd have this assembly be one. A similar abstraction you would want to do with assemblies in a CAD program anyway. Then, you have 2 or 3 people working in each one. Not that big of a deal. So I will say when you're opening something big on a device you haven't opened before, there is an initial delay, and it might convince yourself when you're first checking out Onshape that it's slow. But what that's analogous to is that first GrabCAD download or first PDM checkout where you have to bring those files local. So I will say after using it for a bit, that the amount of time it takes to open up and work on something is definitely comparable to using SolidWorks with version control. So I don't think it's any slower. Now moving on to training, I really like that they have this learning center built in. They've got a decent amount of content to start. There's 2 primary pathways that I'm having our students do. One is this Onshape Fundamentals CAD, and that pretty much shows you all the modeling tools through assemblies and drawings and a handful of advanced features. You're really going to want to finish this before you do real robot work. And then this data management one is good because it shows you configurations, shows you Onshape has a version and branching tool that is pretty cool. They show you that. They show you bill of materials, that sort of thing. So I would definitely do this one on the left before you start working in it, and I would do this one on the right before you start using it for season. From there, I found some good stuff on YouTube. Their forums are pretty good when you have questions. But I just love that this is all integrated. What I'd really love, and I asked for this as a feature, is if I as like an admin or something could see my students' progress on their accounts on these, but they don't have that yet, unfortunately. Next thing to take a look at, wrong page, is there is this onshape.com/edu/FRC page where I assume any FRC specific future updates are going to end up here. You can see they have the field. They have this MKCAD parts library, which we'll take a look at in a bit. It's pretty cool. There is here something you have to do. You have to register your account as an educational account to then do private documents, which, if you're a team and you don't want your CAD publicly shared, is something you're going to have to do. But it's super easy. Students can come here and make their account, or they can make their account and then come here. Either way, you can register and get that educational, and it happens instantly. There's no process waiting for that. All right, so now let's start working on some stuff. So for a couple years now, we've done multi-body parts in SolidWorks, which is where you have one part file, but there'll actually be multiple bodies, not attached in there, that actually represent separate physical parts. And we do that to pass dimensions around easier. And you just have everything edited in one spot, and then you make an assembly from there. Well, since that wasn't the SolidWorks primary workflow, a lot of things get complicated about that, because unless you split those multiple bodies into actual separate SolidWorks parts, a lot of if you do use bill of materials and part properties and stuff to populate drawings, a lot of that metadata is assigned to all of the bodies together, not the singular bodies. It's kind of a pain. Well, Onshape has embraced that multi-body workflow as the primary thing. So all of their feature sets and everything they're going to add going forward is built around the fact that I'm in a part studio, which is not really a part, not really an assembly. It's a collection of bodies where you can do all this modeling, and you have your classic feature tree here, and then you get your unique bodies, and you can assign your properties and stuff to them here, if you want to fill out any of these things. And then it, supports that fairly cleanly. And then from there, you can make an assembly from that. What's cool is for things that do not have a lot of symmetry, that would be fully modeled at this part studio, you can just jump to the assembly and not have to remake everything because you already modeled it in place, which can be a big time saving. Unfortunately, since Onshape is still a work in progress, they're missing some features, primarily assembly planes, assembly mirrors, in my mind. Those are the biggest ones affecting our workflow. And there's some hacks to fix that I'll show you a little bit in this video and a little bit in a separate video about how I made this A-frame. But you can work around that. What next? So let's look at that MK library real quick. It's pretty easy. If you want to insert something, come in here and search MKCAD, pick whatever it is you want to add. It looks like people have been making copies of some of this stuff, but whatever, it'll work. Pick that item, drop it in. And they've done a good job of getting just about every off-the-shelf part I think you can. So what next? In-context design is pretty cool. So SolidWorks, everyone else, has some method of editing parts in the context of the assembly, but I really like how Onshape packages up a little bit, and they teach it well in that second data package. But I can come in, I'm at the assembly now, and I can go, where is it? Edit in context. And what's cool about it is it brings in, yes, that this mock arm was modeled horizontal in the part studio, but it brings in a ghosted position of all of the parts, including those new parts I added that didn't even move, in here that I can reference in my sketch geometry and make new parts. And then I can save this as a snapshot with a name and come back to editing in this context. And that tutorial does teach it well. And then I can move the arm to a different angle and do the same thing. And what I really like about that is, those tools did exist in other programs, but I don't think they were packaged well enough to make them really intuitive and easy to understand for kids. So this is nice. I think it's in the realm that students that are just learning can do this and not introduce a lot of risk to your modeling. All right, so let's talk a little about some of the things that are missing that are fixable. So you got to register that educational account like we talked about. The next one that's missing is there actually is no override mask properties, which I'm sure they're going to add at some point. But in the interim, someone has made this little tool, and I'll make another video about how you import all this, where you bring it in the feature, and you select the body you want, you select the weight you want, and it fakes it out for you. Then you do end up with a body at that mass. So it's just as functional. The other thing that's missing is, assembly planes and reference geometry and mirrors like we talked about. So in this A-frame video, you'll see some of what I did by adding these location-specific reference axes to do that revolve. And then since then, what I've also done is I've made this little triad part that has no mass, it's clear, its properties are overridden, so it won't show up on any bill of materials. And this just gives me the primary axes and the primary planes at an assembly if there's any reason we would want to do that. I think for a lot of stuff in Onshape, since you're setting so much positioning in the part studio and you're presumably drawing it in an orientation that you're happy with, and then you're going to take that whole assembly and mate it with some other assembly, you won't need to do this, but there's a couple spots where this would come in handy. And I'll do another video maybe on how to use that exactly. So that's kind of where we're at with Onshape. We're both really happy with it. Closer to season, I think I'll do another video updating with what the proposed workflow for our team will be, kind of the file structure, what level of abstraction we'll do in terms of independent part studios, independent documents, assemblies, that sort of thing. Mike and I are feeling pretty good about it, and both of our teams run fairly big involved CAD processes, and we're using bill of materials, we're feeding into a part number system, we're making really stupid numbers of parts with our routers. If you look at our robots, we have so many gussets everywhere that are unique just because the router doesn't care if it's making 10 of the same gusset or 10 unique gussets. So if we can make it work for us, I'm really confident it'll work for your team, and I encourage you guys to check it out, and hopefully it'll make it a lot easier for those newer students to get involved in CAD for you guys. All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or ideas for videos, and don't forget to subscribe below.